Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Trainers Lounge. My name is Aaron Cybertron Zhang. I am joined by Markus Statter, and we are starting a Pokemon VGC podcast. Markus is one of the best people that I know in the Pokemon VGC scene. We've known each other for such a long time, and we decided we just want to talk about Pokemon. We talk a lot about it all the time with our friends. Why not share it with the rest of the world? So really excited to get started with this first episode. We'll be talking about the World Championships, which just took place. But before we dive into things, we wanted to give ourselves a little bit of an introduction to who we are and why we're doing this. So, Markus, I'm so excited to start this with you. You were the reason why I got convinced to do this. And so, yeah, I'm really happy to start this journey.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, you said it. I love talking about Pokemon. So, yeah, why not record it and, share it with people who might be interested. Let's see about that. And thanks so much. So yeah, I've been playing the game for 15 years now. 15 years of VGC for me. And I don't know. I think now might be a good time to get started talking about it. I don't know. I think we'll talk a bit about why we decided to do it, what we want to cover. But of course, it's great to have you on as well. I think we identified, just talking about it a bit, we share some similarities. So Aaron, of course, also a top player and commentator. I couldn't think of anyone else who I would want to do this with. So very happy that you agreed to doing this.
Yeah, the idea and story behind this is Markus and I were just coming back from one night during Worlds weekend, and Markus was like, hey man, I got this idea. We should do a podcast. And I was like, okay, say no more. I literally don't need to hear anymore. Let's do it. And so, we're really excited to kick this off. I think our goal is to be just a really good resources for all of you, a free resource for all of you to learn more about VGC, learn about what's going on in the scene, get some in-depth player interviews, and get to talk to champions and highlight players in the scene a little bit more as well. And for Markus and I to just share a little bit about our journey through competitive Pokemon and how it's impacted us, all the stories that we've kind of gained throughout the years, all the knowledge that we've gained. I think we have so much that we want to tell all of you. And so, yeah, that's kind of the motivation behind all of this. Markus doesn't need an introduction, but for those that don't know, he is one of the most accomplished players in the history of this game. He's won 2 national championships, 3rd at the World Championships in 2016. He's won regional titles as well, and he's been playing this game for over a decade and has had success in practically every VGC format, and also has commentated tournaments. We actually got to commentate one of the, I think it was the Latin America International Championships in 2019. That was a really fun experience. So Markus and I both played for a really long time, managed to achieve really high results in tournaments, and then have also transitioned over to becoming commentators. And these days we kind of split our time between playing and commentating and whatnot. So yeah, I think this is just going to be an awesome journey. And we figured, why not start this after the 2024 World Championships? This is the largest Worlds of all time. And Markus, for you and I, it's really crazy to see, because the Worlds we used to compete in had maybe 40, 50 people. This one had 800 people qualifying, and I think just under 700 people competing in it.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy how much the game has grown. And of course, as you said, both of us were really there from not the very beginning, but I think your first year competing was that 2010.
I was actually at the beginning, 2008.
Oh, 2008. Right,
yes.
Right. Yeah, when you were still playing TCG, is that right?
That's right.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and I was telling some people as well, like the first Worlds in Hawaii that I participated in was 2012, and there we had just slightly above 30 people participating in Masters, right? And then now it's like, that's day 2 almost. So yeah, it's crazy how much everything has grown. And I'm sure that over this podcast, which I don't think we've mentioned, but yeah, it's supposed to be a regular thing. So we'll have plenty of time to talk about the good old times, some share some stories from back in the day, and then of course also talk about some news, what's going on in the scene right now. And yeah, I'm just really looking forward to that.
Totally. Let's talk about 2024 Worlds. I mean,
let's do it. Yes.
Just dive into it. Crazy event. I think there's so much to talk about. Basically, what we're going to be doing today is Markus and I are first just going to kind of break down the results, what we thought about it. We're going to talk about our experiences a little bit later on. And we're also going to have an exclusive interview with our brand new world champion in the Masters division, Luca, which is going to be absolutely awesome as well. But first of all, just covering the event, this was the largest Worlds ever. So many people qualified. I think going into the event, I considered it as the most difficult Worlds ever, not only because of the size of it, but because of the format. This is the only single restricted Worlds that we've had so far in this game. And it felt like there was a lot of matchup variance behind a lot of the restricteds as well. Miraidon ended up winning the entire tournament. Calyrex Ice Rider finished second. Zamazenta finished third. And there was actually no Calyrex Shadow Riders in the top 8, which I think was a big surprise because coming into this format, a lot of people thought Calyrex Shadow Rider was like the number 1 Pokemon. Of course, there were a lot in the top 16 and top 32. So it's not like this Pokemon kind of just fell off the face of the earth, but it wasn't able to win in the very end. So what were kind of like the biggest high-level thoughts that you had looking at the results and teams from Worlds?
Yeah, so I really thought I had VGC all figured out. I thought, okay, there's regional decks, there's national decks, and then there's dual restricted. And usually we have some history to look back on and to really inspire teams to see what was doing well in each of those. But yeah, with single restricted, it really felt a lot more difficult to prepare for this event. And then, of course, you have all the best players in the world participating as well, which doesn't make it easier. So for me personally, I prepared together a lot with Wolf, and we were using Calyrex Shadow Rider. Now, as you said, it wasn't even close to, it wasn't sniffing the title at all this year. So yeah, maybe it was the wrong call. I still want to do a little bit more reflection of the result, I think, because especially for me, it didn't go well at all. So we don't have to spend too much time talking about that. But overall, I thought it was pretty exciting to see like a lot of, I guess, like more up and coming players this year. I think it's always interesting to seeing, okay, with a format that is a little bit more volatile, like are some of the legends of the game the favorites. Like once again, I'm still waiting for Hirofumi Kimura to win that title. I don't know if it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, but he had a really strong showing. But then also we had a lot of like newer players like Ruben from Italy, for example, someone who I was impressed by, winning the Bologna special event, now 10th place at Worlds, as well as some more cool teams that we didn't really expect, I guess, going into the event. So yeah, a really big mix of newer players, old players, different storylines, cool teams we expected, and everything just mixed up all in one tournament. It's always super exciting to see, for sure.
100%. Yeah, I think, this was the first Worlds that I had played in a really, really long time. Haven't played in Worlds since 2017. And I came back to this Worlds because I was like, this is, the first time in my life that I can remember having like a whole summer where I can actually just think about VGC. I'm not working or doing some internship or busy with school or something like that. And it was really fun competing. But I think, both you and I had much higher expectations that where you probably ended up finishing. I ended up starting 4-0, but of course got knocked out in the last round in round 8 of day 1 against Riley Fector. And I ended up bringing Zamazenta to the tournament. And it was a very similar team to Michael Kelsch, who of course finished in 3rd place after finishing 2nd place last year. Yep. I mean, back-to-back top 4s, that story alone is something we'll have to talk a little bit about. But it was interesting because I think a lot of players had locked into their restricted Pokemon pretty early on going into Worlds. You were talking about Wolf. Like Wolf was convinced on Calyrex Shadow Rider. He's like, I'm not going to change. That was like 2 months before Worlds. Whereas I was like, I started my Worlds prep a month before the tournament, and basically for 2 weeks. And for those that don't know, like we got a really fun experience this summer. Markus and I, as well as Wolf and Aaron, we got to boot camp a little bit together over the course of July. Me, Aaron, and Wolf were over in Finland. And we basically just were kind of secluding ourselves from the rest of the world. We were like, okay, we're going to train for Worlds. We're going to just like be able to practice against each other every day. We, battle against each other every day. Markus joined for a couple of days. And so that in itself was a whole really unique experience. But during that experience, for those like 10 days, I was literally trying a new restricted Pokemon every day. And then in the end, I was like, okay, I'm going to lock in with Zamazenta. But it's a really, ridiculously hard format. And it's interesting because the team that won was a team that was on a lot of people's radars, like way before Worlds. And I didn't think it would win Worlds, to be honest, because I thought a lot of the top teams would have like good lines and, good practice into it. But, Luca Ceribelli, who ended up winning the entire event, just was so dominant with it and like knew how to play even against all the people that had counters against it.
Yeah, I was super impressed in a lot of his games, but especially I think the top 4 stands out to me, just because like it was a complete like mirror match,
Yeah.
or at least same 5 out of 6. And he like, yeah, he just made like, I think both turn ones were pretty educational, if I remember correctly, where he would like protect switch or something, and he like took a lot of damage, and I was like, oh, like where's this going? But he had a plan from the very beginning and just like executed that perfectly. So it's funny that, yeah, who can stop a well played Miraidon? Well, apparently it's another like even better played Miraidon. So yeah, definitely, I think a very, very strong team that, yeah, as you said, a lot of people knew about it going into the tournament. But also in my preparation, it was one of the matchups where I thought I had a good grasp on it and I know what I wanted to do. But then like I could still lose because the team is just so strong. So even if you like build a team with that Miraidon team in mind, you could still lose to it.
100%. Yeah, I think like what makes the team so powerful is just the amount of flexibility that you have, especially with like lead matchups, for example. Miraidon in itself is just so powerful. And it's funny because I feel like coming into this regulation, people were really disrespecting Miraidon. Like no one was really talking about it.
Yep.
But then it wins the first regional championship over in Indianapolis. And I think I've never just seen like a team that wins the first tournament just have such a big impact, right? I was like, okay, now one, people figured it out. People realized this is not priced into the metagame. But nope, it won Worlds, right? And I think like there are a couple things that really unlocked it, in my opinion, to to the next level. This Fire Ogre Pawn set, which was bulky, had Follow Me, but could also Terra and have Ivy Cudgel and Woodhammer. Just such an effective defensive and offensive option. And I think, yeah, the amount of leads that you had, right? Like Iron Hands, people started realizing was also a really good Pokemon. This thing won Worlds last year as well.
Yep.
And so, yeah, just a couple of small things that I think like added up, plus paired on, such a strong player on Lucas end. Like in the end, I was like, okay, it makes sense that it won, but I actually would not have bet money on it winning coming into this tournament, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think towards the like end of the format, I also came to the conclusion that you should use something that is, I guess, like established, or like, I guess my goal going into this Worlds was to like use at least 5 like really good Pokemon.
Yeah.
And have like some sort of composition that maybe people know about, but that it can still win in matchups like that. Just because, yeah, like there are so many different matchups you want to cover, and you cannot really expect to have a team that is like creative or uses like Pokemon that no one has thought about to give you a good matchup into certain restricteds, and then at the same time also beat some of the more volatile matchups that you didn't like full focus on while team building. So yeah, again, very, very different, or very difficult format, I should say. And yeah, really anyone who's made it far in that tournament can be very proud of themselves, in my opinion.
Totally. I think one of the interesting things for this format and Worlds always is people thinking about like breaking the meta, right? Like, can you come up with something that's so crazy that like no one's prepared for? And I think it was easier to do that back in the day when the field was a lot smaller. Of course, everyone's going to look at 2014 when Seijon won Worlds with Pachirisu, but Ray Rizzo's 2011 team was super meta breaking. Like there were so many concepts that no one was really thinking about at the time. Bulky Thunderous being one of them, but he also used Gothitelle specifically to beat Max Speed Amoonguss, right? It was all these like very small nuances, but it worked in a field where there weren't as many people. Of course, the team that you and Wolf brought to Worlds in 2016 felt pretty groundbreaking as well. But that was a format with way few kind of combinations of Pokemon. And that was a dual restricted format as well. And I think this format, it was just like impossible to truly break the meta because the meta is just so wide open, right? There were like so many restricted Pokemon that were viable, so many that ended up getting top cut at the World Championships as well. So I think similar to you, my goal was to just at least find a team that I felt like could give me even footing against most of the popular archetypes. And then it would come down to, can I play near perfectly on tournament day? But that it speaks to, I think, how difficult the game is now, right? I think team building is obviously a big element of it, but it's also, you also have to play super, super well with the team. But I just like finding those pieces that can really like truly break the meta and give you such a significant advantage, like maybe back in the day we had seen, is not as easy to do in this day and age. But that being said, there were still a lot of teams in top 8 that had like pretty cool things that I didn't expect. Like we had Iron Valiant finish in second place, Choice Scarf Landorus. We had Entei in third place, Hard Trick Room in top 8. Reggie Alecki was in top 8 on a Calyrex Ice Rider team. And then we had Galarian Weezing finish in the top 16. There was a Latios, there was a Roaring Moon. So still a good amount of, unique Pokemon picks at the high level.
Yeah, absolutely. And just going back to what we were saying earlier, comparing this format to some of the previous formats we've played, I think the closest in the end that I got to, like also during my preparation, was to compare this with 2018, where we had Mega Pokemon, of course, and like also I think back then I didn't play that much. I think it was one of my like years off from playing, but you had like Mega Kangaskhan, Mega Gengar. There was some Mega Scizor Rain teams. There was Mega Charizard Y, obviously, and just like a lot of different like teams that would usually bring their Mega Pokemon to every battle. So in a way, it felt a little bit similar. And also, I think back then, the tournament wasn't really won by like a crazy call or like a crazy, I don't know, team that no one had seen before, but it was more like with Paul Ruiz's team having some of the like best Pokemon that were available, and you put them on a team in a way that they like support each other and that they just like cover a lot of ground. So in a way, maybe some of the teams that we're seeing or that did well now, of course, in hindsight is always easy to say, but maybe some of them were following a similar formula.
100%. Yeah, I think that's what makes VGC exciting to me. That's the fact that like this was like a first ever, even though this game has existed for so long, I think is fascinating.
Yeah.
And that like last Worlds was also crazy because it was like, oh, let's just drop all of these really powerful Pokemon right before Worlds. It was the first Worlds of that, or first tournament of that format, which I think is crazy as well. So we've kind of been in uncharted territories in Scarlet and Violet VGC so far. When you look at the top names and the top results from this tournament, it's been a fun mix. I think there were a lot of new names that I had not really seen before very much. And then, of course, there were some very familiar names. You and Wolf worked together. I think Wolf was definitely the story that everyone was talking about coming out of day one. 9-0, undefeated, or 8-0, didn't drop a single game, and then won against Hirofumi as well, 9-0. 18-0 in games, but then dropped the last 2 sets of Swiss and then lost in the first round of Cut. It goes to show like how difficult this game can be, right? And at the end of the day, it's about getting like consecutive wins at the right time if you want to win the entire thing. And for Luca, who ended up winning the whole tournament, he started the tournament 3-2 and then I believe won like
11 in a row.
Yeah, that's right, to become world champion. And so it makes me think about 2019 when Naoto started Worlds 0-2. And I was like, that's wild. Like having played at Worlds, every time you lose, you're always just like, oh man, like that's just like, one game closer to elimination. For Naoto to literally start the tournament 0-2 and just somehow have that clutch factor to win the entire thing, it's amazing. But it's also so difficult, right? Imagine like you're 0-2 and then suddenly you stare down your auto loss matchup in round 3.
Yeah, and then it could have happened. I read Naoto's blog actually just the other day. I don't know if it was ever translated into English, but maybe that's one cool resource we can drop in the description. Drop the link there. But yeah, he was also, I think in his like 3rd round that year, I think he also could have lost. Like, I think it wasn't like an easy matchup at all. And yeah, so it really goes to show that some of these tournaments, sometimes we wonder like, oh, what would happen if you like replay the tournament? Would the results be the same? Yeah, probably not exactly the same, right? But in VGC, as you were saying, like sometimes it feels like, hey, anything can happen. There's so much room to improve, to be creative, and then to find that team that works for you.
Totally. Yeah. I think it also speaks to how difficult Worlds is as a tournament. I think a lot of times it's easy to just look at the results and you're like, oh, here are a lot of names that I do recognize. But for every name that you do recognize and every champion that's up there in the top, there's also someone who's didn't make it through the first few rounds of Worlds, right? And I think that today in this era, there are just so many good players that like it is not uncommon for, a lot of ex-champions to just get eliminated right away. Like I think about Worlds day one last year, and I think like every world champion that had played before ended up not making it through day one. I think this year, day one on stream, every world champion that had played did not win the game either, right? So it's just like the margin for error at Worlds in particular is really, really small. And It's like my mentality going into this tournament is like, okay, like I've put in all the prep I think that I need. At the end of the day, I just have to perform on the day. You know, I have to play really well, maybe get a little bit lucky with team matchups, and just hope for the best. I think in Pokemon it's so hard. Like I wouldn't give any individual player more than like 3% to win the tournament.
Yeah.
Right? And to your case about running it over and over again, if we ran this tournament over again, I think a lot of those players in top cut probably would still be there. But to win an entire tournament, it's like you just have to get on a hot streak, and a lot of things have to go in your favor as well. But obviously, some players will be able to win more frequently than others. But I think it's just really, really hard.
Absolutely. Yeah, and Luca, of course, we said it already, but definitely a very deserving champion. Played so well throughout all the games that we saw, and that also those that we didn't get to see. Because, of course, also, I think sometimes I'm a little bit sad just thinking about how many great games there were, like that are being played. Like shoutouts to Trey and everyone who's supporting, recording some side TV games, because like. Yeah, there's so much VGC history that we just wouldn't have otherwise, and I love going back to watch some like side TV games, even from like way back NAIC some years ago. Sometimes just because it's like high level Pokemon games that weren't featured on the mainstream, but that you can still watch there. So yeah, I didn't do it yet for this year's Worlds, but I'm sure there's a lot of hidden gems out there as well. Some games that were recorded but didn't make it to the mainstream.
It's funny hearing you talk about that because it reminds me of the good old days, when we were first starting out, where like there was no official stream for VGC until 2012. In 2011, like we literally had people, and 2010, we had people with iPhones like recording, and there was this streaming strike. I think it was called Ustream. This is like the era of Twitch even. And we would literally have someone like on a phone, like streaming, and you could barely see like what pixels Ray Rizzo had like out on the field. I think that's maybe an Escavalier. That's maybe a Gothitelle. And I think in 2010, I remember because like, I was in the junior division turned seniors division, and I was like a huge Ray Rizzo fan, and I was like, oh, I want to like see what Ray, is Ray gonna win Worlds? Like that's crazy. And I think the story was that like someone, it might have been Dr. Fidget, who was like an old school VGC player. If I remember correctly, like maybe he had to leave, but he was like, okay, like, I don't want to.
He had to go to the airport. Yeah.
So he like was like, take my phone and like record the game, like it's okay. And I remember watching it, and I was like, oh my goodness.
It's like mail the phone to me, but this is more important. I might not be available for a couple of days. No one can reach me, but this is I need to do this now.
Yeah, it's like really funny thinking how far we've come from those days. And then when we were starting as well, like regionals look so different. Regionals actually in like 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, they were like single elimination tournaments, and like there were no chairs. You would literally show up and just play in this like play area. And so it's like funny to me to see how much has evolved since then, but something still feel very much like the same.
Absolutely. So I think before we can ask a true and a real world champion, I have one question to ask to you. So you mentioned that, for this year, you wanted to get back on the grind, really go hard, practice a lot. And it's your first Worlds that you're playing since, 7 years. And of course, your career as a player is, there's very few people who have achieved what you have achieved, being a two-time US national champion, top 4 at Worlds, and numerous regional like high finishes. And I know like for you also, just like myself, and I guess everyone, like back in the day, you would have that goal, right? Like to win it all one day, right? Like be a world champion one day. Is this something that is still on your mind nowadays? Is this something that you were going for, or maybe talk to me about that a bit?
Yeah, and then I of course want to hear your answer as well, because I think we have such similar trajectories. I think I was always like, I was so lucky to be able to work and commentate the last couple of Worlds, right? And it was crazy that the first Worlds I ever commentated, I like just turned 18 that year. Is Wolf winning, you getting third, Aaron Triller getting top 8, like so many of my best friends doing so well. And I think even seeing like Wolf win, and then seeing even in the subsequent years, there was always like, I feel like someone that I was really good friends with that was I like really close to winning, right? Like Wolf, for example, was back in cut in 2017. My brother, Brendan, I got to commentate his win and in match, and then he's in top 16 at Worlds in 2018. Aaron Trailer's in top cut of Worlds in 2019. And I was always like, I think, you know, when we all play and practice against each other so much, I was always like, I don't think my skills have deteriorated so much to the point where I feel like I'm so far away from it. I think the reality is just that like things feel a lot harder now, right? I think back in the day, you could give people higher percentage points for their odds of winning Worlds because the field was smaller and like the gap was bigger. Now a lot of people have caught up, and it's like it's a lot harder. Like the margin for errors, I think, is just a lot slimmer. But I wanted to play because basically when I played in Worlds in 2017, I remember I like barely practiced for that Worlds. I like couldn't come up with a really good team concept. I ended up just reusing a team that I won regionals with, and it was just kind of outdated by then. And I went 1-3, and that was it. I lost in day one. And, you know, I had the opportunity to commentate that Worlds, but I turned it down to play. And then I remember watching the finals, and it was such an awesome finals between, just two absolutely incredible players. And Rio Totsu was probably like my favorite player just because I've used so many of his fun teams for like YouTube. That was just like this legendary finals. Up until then, like so many Worlds finals were only 2 games. This one was 3 games. And there were so many cool interactions that were happening in it. Like I think it was like Z Nature Power from
on the Mandibus.
Exactly. And then I remember, I think I was just like sitting there for the rest of the weekend, and I was like, well, I lost Worlds so quickly, and like I love commentating so much as well. Like it feels really, really bad to be like, not there commentating, especially when like commentating Pokemon in general is so fun, but when it's like super, super high level and there are all these intricacies, like I love breaking this stuff down, as I'm sure you do as well. And then so I'm like, well, this feels really bad. And then at the time I was also in college, right? So it was like, oh, like it's really cool being able to do something you love and actually get paid for it as well versus playing. I'm like paying to go to these events to feel miserable after I lose, you know? And so, part of the reason I actually stepped away just in general from playing was because I thought about how I was using my time. And I was like, look, if I'm not going to like practice for tournaments and really give it a lot of effort, I don't really have the right to feel upset. Yeah. I mean, you have the right to feel however you feel. But for me, I was like, I shouldn't be like, complaining about it internally. It's like if I want to fix that, I either have to put in more time or I have to spend my time doing other things, essentially. Not have to, but I'd rather prefer to. And I think especially when I was in college, I was like, well, if I don't have that much money to spend in the first place, where would I rather put it into? And for example, like I realized that I love going to live events with my friends, concerts in particular, right? And I was like, okay, well, I could either pay like a couple $100s to go to a regionals, and unless I win the regionals, quite frankly, or maybe get top 4, I'm not going to be happy, versus like I could use that money to like have a really awesome weekend with my friends and like see a lot of my favorite like musicians, and that's just like guaranteed fun. I think at the time where like money was sparse, that's kind of how I was framing things. And especially like, by the time in 2017, I already like won regionals a lot and like gotten so many top cuts, and it was just like wasn't very fun to be playing anymore. And I think if VGC isn't fun, like that should be the main thing, right? Like we do this because we love it, and it's like such a fun and exciting game. And if it stops becoming that, like that was kind of what made me step away. But long story short, I kept, commentating Worlds, and I was like, man, like this is still so cool. And like it gets bigger and bigger. The stages get bigger and bigger. The lights are awesome. And so I was like, at least want to like give it another go and put in the time, right? And regardless of how the result is, I can at least say, I tried. And that's how this Worlds ended up. I think I honestly came in being like, I think if everything does go well, I have a chance of winning. And I think that's not all you can ask for, but to have that feeling again was really exciting, because I don't remember feeling that way in like 2017. I think 2015, I didn't feel that way either. Those were like the last 2 Worlds I had played in. So I think the result is pretty disappointing, especially because I started 4-0, which was like the best start. All the other Worlds I had played in was like 3-1 starts, right? So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm even ahead of it. But like there's just so many games. And I think if my play was a little bit sharper in the latter half of the tournament, if I maybe had 1 or 2 better matchups, like there were like 2 of the 3 losses I had, I thought they weren't unwinnable, but they were against really good players, and like I would have needed to play basically absolutely out of my mind turn after turn after turn. One other match I thought like was very winnable, but it was against Lunala, which I had 0 experience fighting against. And it was just something that I think if I had maybe practiced against or like thought about a little bit more in the moment, maybe could have won. But I'm not disappointed about how I'm disappointed, but like I'm happy that I put in the time, and I'm like, it made me be like, you know what, even though this one didn't work out, I think like I was happy with the process that I had going into it. And it was the first time in a long time I can remember having fun. I think it's a big deal. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, to your question, it's like I mean, winning Worlds, it's like it's still everyone's dream, and I think there's still a part of me in the back of my head. I was like, man, like if I could actually accomplish that, like that would be amazing. And we've both come so close, but I now understand also like one person gets to realize that dream, right? How many we all dream about it. So
yeah.
I think I used to just put so much stock into this that I was like, oh, like my life depends on this. Like if I don't do well at Worlds, I'll be miserable. And I also didn't like that feeling either. And I think now I kind of have a healthier maybe approach for it. But at the same time, I'm like, maybe I need to want it more. Like,
yeah.
I was like, if I lose, like, I feel like when I was like on the brink of tournament elimination, I was like, this is your life on the line, man. If you lose, that's it. Like everything you care about is over. And now, and I'm like, okay, if I lose, whatever. Like life goes on. I still, think somebody
else. There's a concert next weekend.
So yeah, I was thinking about that. It's like maybe my mentality isn't like as like it used to be so hyper competitive, but I don't know. I got knocked out from Worlds, and I was still like, wow, this sucks. I cried a little bit. I was like, oh, it's great that I still feel these emotions and I care so much, So I still dream about it, but man, it's hard. But I didn't walk away this year being like I'm so far away from it. Like it was like things felt doable. I think like winning against Sajin on stream, like that was an exhilarating experience in itself. But I think the reality is that it's just really difficult, and I think it would be easier for me if like I weren't a commentator as well. But I love commentating so much that it's like it's always hard for me to like basically watch all these really amazing games and be like, oh, I wish I could be on the booth, like and like just getting hype about all of this stuff. So I don't know where things will go from here, but I have to say, like, I have no regrets playing this summer. Whereas in 2017, I had a ton of regrets because I like put in no effort to practice and had such a undesirable result. And this year, like things felt like, I was closer, but I was still far away from, making top cut and like obviously winning the whole thing, but I had fun with it. And that's the first time I can remember in a long time where prepping for Worlds was fun. And I think that's important.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing.
What about you, man? Let's see. I think we both have had such similar trajectories where we like came so close to winning it, and then since then it's just been like, oh, we got a taste of it, but we didn't get quite there.
Yeah, I think I definitely can resonate with some of the struggles that you mentioned, like being so close, but then any tournament that isn't looking like it could be like a win is like, oh, like why, what am I even doing here, kind of. And yeah, I think for a while I wasn't really taking any tournament serious, and I just like try to qualify for Worlds, and then I just told myself, oh yeah, but then like for Worlds I want to like really prep really hard. But then in the last couple of years that didn't really happen either. So I don't know, it's just like being busy with other things. But I like this year I told myself, okay, like I'm gonna try to qualify early, and then because there was so much more time between NAIC and Worlds this year, I felt like this could actually benefit me because it allowed me to it could allow me to come up with something new, something fresh that maybe wasn't known at around NAIC, and there wasn't any like risks of the metagame changing with NAIC. So I thought for me, like as a player, this actually helped me a bit. Or it helped me also to focus more on Worlds, because if NAIC was later and if it was only 4 weeks, then I would have been probably like, oh, I don't need to start like working on Pokemon because there's going to be NAIC. Something weird is going to win, and then all the prep is down the drain. So I think it actually forced me to prep a bit more this year than in some of the previous years. And winning it all, as you said, like, it's like it's the dream, right? It's still the dream. But I think like I know it's like not realistic just based on like sheer numbers. There's so many people who are like just looking at like some of the top cut from this year, even like you have Markus Silva, for example, who's gone top 16 the last 3 years, and he hasn't been closer than top 16, even though he's like so good, so consistent. So it's like hard to see some of these players that I know put in so much time and effort. I think Hirofumi Kimura for me is another one of those players. Of course, he's been in the finals before, and like back in the day, like for example with Wolf, with Sajin winning, also Shoma to some extent, like it felt like you could see it coming, right? But now there's like 20 players where I like if they won, I would be like, oh yeah, I saw that one coming, right?
Yeah.
So, but then for me personally, I don't think I'm in that group currently. So yeah, I think I want to get in the vibe again of like try harding for some tournaments, and it doesn't have to be Worlds. I think maybe I need to start working hard on my fundamentals, just like get better at the game and maybe do well at some regionals before I want to try and take down like the whole thing at Worlds. So I think I'll keep on playing, but also for like some of the upcoming seasons, maybe I want to try and commentate a Worlds at some point. Try and see if I can, push into that direction a bit more. Because as you mentioned, we've commentated some IC before, but I never actually got to commentate Worlds. So I want to try and see, if I can maybe improve my commentary and go in that direction a bit more.
Yeah, totally. I think one of the interesting things about this game is like a lot of the skill that you gather throughout the years definitely like stays with you, but how much of that translates to like the highest level of success? I think it's like for a lot of players, even if they're coming back and they were really good back in the day, you could probably pick up a team the day before a tournament and go 6-3, maybe just miss out on day 2, or 7-2, make day 2, and then, go 3-2 in day 2, get to 10-4, right? Something like that. I think, I've been playing a couple regionals here and there, and most of the time I wouldn't have that much event time to prepare for it. So it's like, oh, I'm still like good enough to be in like top 16, top 32 of a lot of these events, and there's like hundreds of people. But then it's like still not like winning, right? And I think especially when you taste like the highest level of success, you just like set such a high bar for yourself, which isn't bad for sure. But especially like you and I feel like, we probably don't spend as much as time, really grinding the game out and like playing Showdown or just like practicing and like thinking about strategy all the time. Like I remember, I feel like Worlds 2013, I was like every day, like I would be thinking about VGC. I'd come home from like the school I was volunteering at and then played like 5 hours of Showdown. And now I'm like, oh, like for a tournament, like playing like 20 games with the team. I'm like, oh yeah, this is a lot.
Good old Pokemon Online.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. It's so funny. Everyone like Showdown is obviously such a great tool, but back in the day, like, we had Pokemon Online, and then there's like Shoddy Battle even before that. It's crazy to think about all of it. But yeah, I think it's weird when you're kind of in this limbo where you're like, oh, I feel like I could still be like good and I can show up to tournaments and like do okay, but like not like exceptional, like win an entire thing, right? And so yeah, I feel similarly where it's like I don't feel like I'm that far away. But to get back to that level, there's definitely like a lot of work to be done. And so, and then the question is, what's the goal? Is it to top cut regionals, top cut an IC? Is it to win Worlds, right? Like, I think the first two, a lot more attainable. Winning Worlds, I think, and just like hyper focusing on such a specific goal. It's not bad to goal set, but when only one person in the world gets to achieve that goal, it becomes
once every year. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
At least with like regionals or even ICs, like you have a couple of chances every year, but like to feel miserable, as you said, for like a whole year, like that's not going to be fun. And also with rotating formats, I feel like, for example, now we will have a new format, Reg H, but Worlds will probably be played in a different format than that. So like, if your goal was to only win Worlds, like what are you doing now? Like skip that whole format, or like, I don't know. So instead, I think, maybe some more attainable goals is a bit more healthy.
Totally, yeah. And I don't want people to listen to this and just be like, well, like that's silly. You should dream big, right? I think it's like great to dream big. I think it's just sometimes also good to be realistic to an extent, because I think the heartbreak of Worlds specifically is really tough. And it's like one of the reasons, like, I'm curious how you felt, Marcus, but I just remember like going into like 2014 and 2015, I was 3-1. 2014, like I'm just 2 games away from making it into top cut. And 2015, I remember I was like, oh, there's like only like 2 or 3 North Americans left who are even in top cut contention. And then you lose that game that eliminates you. And I was just like, I felt like the world had ended in that moment. I was like, oh my goodness, like I can't believe it. And then you think about all the mistakes that happen, and then you're just, I don't know, it's like, the sadness definitely comes in waves. And I think one of the things about being a competitor is learning how to deal with that, right? Because like you're going to lose a lot. And Pokemon is a game where like you're going to lose a lot more frequently than I think a lot of other competitive games as well, just because there's so many other elements to the game. So you should dream big, but yeah, I think like just the goal of winning Worlds is really tough. And I think so many people go into Worlds being like, maybe it could happen, but I can't remember the last time I remember like someone went into Worlds and was like, I'm gonna win this whole thing, and then they like actually won. I think a decade ago, like when you called out like the Sejon, Wolf, Shoma years back to back to back, like those years it was like, oh wow, like that probably was one of, if not the favorite to win the tournament coming into it. But now it's like there's so many favorites, and how many of them actually even come close? It's a lot harder.
Yeah, and we also of course have many more tournaments this year. So there's like 16 regional champions, like just from that season, like participating in the event. Like back in the day, we would have like maybe like 5 national champions, and that was it. Like those were the champions playing that year. But yeah, maybe both of us, maybe we're just washed up. Maybe the rumors are true. That's why
right. I hate to say it, they were right.
yeah. The haters were right. But what do you think about maybe hearing from someone who is, well, a little less washed up? I mean, yeah, we got the chance to talk to the world champion, and he had a lot of interesting things to say.
All right, everybody, welcome to our brand new Pokemon video game world champion, Luca Ceribelli. I am so excited that he is able to join us here and for our very first podcast as well. So, Luca, how are you doing, man? Thank you for taking the time today to speak to us.
Thank you for inviting me, Aaron. It just feels so great. Like already, like you said, this is the first time your first podcast. I'm the first one you invite. Like this is kind of like crazy to me because, like, actually, once I started playing competitive, I watched a lot of your videos already. Like I remember when I was like I just started the school, the new school. Like I don't know how it translated to English, but like it was the school before going to university. But like the funny thing was that I was watching so many of like all the VGC videos, especially like from you and from other Italian channels, that I got my device blocked on the on the Wi-Fi of the school. So 7 years later, it's super like it's so strange, like to be able to just talk it here as a world champion. So
yeah, you definitely made it a long way since then, and now you're here. Of course, I think you just got back as well from Hawaii, so you spent a couple more days there to enjoy the victory.
No, like the point is, I already like booked everything in advance. I did it. I also did it like last year in Japan, where it didn't go as well. So, like the point was that if I'm going to move from Italy right back to the other side of the world, I may as well just spend a couple more days instead of just hanging out at the venue.
Yeah, I bet it was extra sweet though, because now you also had something to be proud of and to celebrate, I would assume.
Oh yeah, but like also I had to like carry all the new stuff, all the bags, all the trophy as well. I had to carry all because we didn't just stay in Honolulu. Like we went to Big Island, and then like we took a car and just went around Big Island. So we had to just take all of our stuff like every day, just pack it into the into the van and then just stroll around the island. Also, like another thing was that like it's strange obviously to say I'm the Pokemon World Champion. So like my friends were super like they knew that I'm pretty shy, so I'm not one to really disclose it. And they went to anyone that they talked to for more than 2 minutes, and they go, "Oh well, yeah, my friend is a world champion." And so like the other person just has to go, "Wow, that's crazy." And maybe sometimes they even asked for a photo. So like it was super strange. Anyway.
It's so fun hearing about all of that, man. I mean,
But, like,
once again, like congratulations. Obviously, like everyone goes into Worlds, everyone wants to win. You were the one that were able to accomplish it. First of all, thank you for the kind words that you said about like watching my stuff when you were starting. I think that's so cool. I think Marcus and I wanted to hear a little bit about your journey. Obviously, you had many years of VGC actually before this big victory, and I was looking at your results. You made day 2 of Worlds both last year and the year before, playing through day 1 as well. So you have a lot of experience on the world stage. So how did you get into VGC? How did you get into Pokemon? And yeah, talk a little bit about your journey into VGC.
So yeah, like technically, like just straight from Pokemon, I think I started out like any 8-year-old kid. Like at school, everyone was watching the cartoon. Everyone was collecting the cards, even though if no one knew how you would play the game. So like they just felt like cool. And so in general, I say, wow, this is pretty cool. So I also was watching like the regular playthroughs on YouTube, and like I prayed my parents to buy me the Pokemon Platinum version, and like once they did, I really spent a lot of times to like just playing every Pokemon game I could get my hands on. So yeah, but in general, I started my journey to the competitive scene watching the 2016 San Francisco, I think, World Championships, and like this captivated me because I always thought like the competitive scene would have been like single, and I didn't really like singles very much. But like seeing the words, seeing all the hype around it, all the different strategies, and all the things that stemmed from like playing doubles, really like captivated me. So I decided like to look more into it. The following year, I began watching a lot of VGC contents. At the time, like I think there were many less channels than there are now. So there wasn't any Twitch. So basically, you just watch the video the videos on YouTube. But like, and I was super into it. Um, like a funny thing was that I did not understand the concept of like rotating formats, because I remember like as I had seen a video about like a VGC 15 team, looks like Miraidon and something else, but like they had no restricted. And I just said, wow, this team is super cool. I wanted to try it, and then I kept like queuing to game on Pokemon Showdown, and like there was still VGC 16. So like I was just getting my ass beat with like double restricted, and I really did not understand what was going on. I said, yeah, the team looked cool. Why isn't it working? So, but yeah. After that, I started competing in February of 2017, because I finally was able to like find how you could attend tournaments. I played in a local tournament in Milan. It was like 70 people already. I was senior at the time, but and I managed to go second place. Like still, like I went 4-3, playing among masters. So like I think it was like a good tournament overall. But I really liked it. Also, this tournament I met up with some people that they are still my friends to this day, especially like Marco Fiero, who like we met literally there. He beat me there, and the ended up first place. So like this kind of rivalry started out right from like February 2017, and we're still going strong, I think.
Yeah, and then obviously, I don't know if our viewers or watchers, listeners, I still need to get used to this, if they know about it. But of course, I know because we talked about it at the special event in Bologna this year. But then in 2017, so this must have been after Worlds, right?
Yeah.
And you just aged up as a master. And yeah, tell us a little bit. Yeah, what happened there in your first big event in Italy as a master?
Oh yeah, I think like in general, what happened there is kind of like how I feel, like how I felt at Worlds, where like I gone in, like most of the times like I did not expect really to go well, and like I just say, well, I'll just go with the flow and see where this brings me. A lot of times like it didn't work, and in general, I I feel really bad if I go bad, but I unexpectedly I think won the whole thing. Um,
Yeah, I
so
mean, this was a special event, right? So like
yeah,
equivalent of a regional back in the day. It was your first big event, and yeah, you just won it all, right?
yeah, like it was crazy because like I beat especially like in Top Cut a lot of people who I thought were like next to God, like God the tier
Mm.
players. Like I beat Yuri, who was at the time like I think the best player in the world.
Yeah.
Especially like I beat him with a soaked Apofinian Katana, which felt especially good. And then like I beat Jamie Boyd in the finals, who I was like a big fan of, but because as I said before, there were really little content creators in at the time, so I saw like all of his videos, and I was sat next to him like at the player meeting the day before, and I just introduced myself to him, say, well, I'm a big fan, and everything, and like he also like went most of the tournament, like he will like bump into me, ask me how I was doing and everything. So like it was super weird. Like in the end, like we faced off in finals, and I was able to beat him. But yeah, the experience was incredible. Unfortunately, the point is that after that, I had like a lot. I think a lot of, I'd say, gap years. Like there's like this running joke in among my friend group, where like you say that if you attend many events but you don't do well, like everyone just assumes like you're not attending every event. So like once you get back doing results, they say, wow, this person is so good, and never attends an event, but whenever he does, he does well. So it felt like a gap year, but in general, like I just attended a lot of events and they all went bad. So it wasn't pretty, like it wasn't pretty for me. Like down to like 2022, like all the tournaments were like disasters. I could feel myself like wasn't playing as good as I could have, and like it really felt like I had no way to just do better. So like I was qualified for the 2022 World Championships, which is, by the way, the funny thing was that I qualified for the 2022 World Championships off of 2019 locals alone, just due to the different to like the
Yeah,
pandemics
yeah.
and all the stuff that ended up in. So like I literally, like I even went to UIC, and I went to this special event in Milan, and they both went bad. So like I said, like I almost like said to myself like there's no, like you're gonna have to quit at some point. And like I told myself um that I will like super try hard the 2022 words, and if even then they like I ended up not doing bad, I will like stop playing. But like so like I really try hard in the for that tournament. um I started doing like um all like mini tournaments. There were like those mini tournaments in Japanese servers where like every day you will like play 3 games against random opponents from Japan, and like I played all of those. Like I I was like I would wake up, do something, eat, then play the tournament, and then like think about anything else on the day. Like it was the only thing that mattered to me in those days, and like in general, like I said. Like I tried it. If even then, even this isn't enough, then like maybe this game isn't for me. But luckily, I was able to day two those words, which were actually the first time I was able to play in the day two of an event, because like the Turing special is unique to this day, because no, like actually it's not unique because it inadvertently had now has the same tournament structure as today, because it was super weird, because like for the like venues, it was super like it has some scheduling conflicts, so like basically you had to play 8 rounds, but they only had you play 6 rounds the first day, and then the following two Swiss rounds were played on the second day. So it feels kind of similar, right?
So you had the advantage of knowing the tournament structure from all those years back.
Yeah, let's say that. But like so, like it technically didn't feel like a day two, and I didn't make it top cut or day two of any other tournament before then. So it felt wow. I'm still able to like I can do that, which or like also like then things started going well, and one thing I noticed after like my tournament in Japan the following year went bad. Like I passed day one, but then like I did super bad in day two. I was surprised because like I said to myself, 1 year ago, this result would have meant a lot to me. Like I would have been super proud of it, because I would have never I literally never made the two at an event before, let alone Worlds. But now that I did that, like it just felt underwhelming. Like it's like, well,
Mm.
I could have done better. So even though like it feels bad, like in the moment, because like you didn't do well, it also felt like it was like a proof of how far I've come, because I turned something that at the time that just a year prior I would have I would have like be super proud of. It would have probably been my result I was the most proud of, and like it became something that say like they just that you say, well, that's not enough. I can do better. So like this like really struck me after I thought about it, and yeah, so the for this year my goal was to be able to top cut the world championships. I was super happy doing that after like I managed to squeeze in top cut, uh, and after that like this happened. Like it's so weird. I think like something similar happened at UAC, where like I managed to make top cut, which was also there my main goal. And after like and even then like I lost in top eight, and I said, well, yeah, could have done it better. So there was still like room to improve.
Yeah,
Uh,
the mindset of a champion, I think.
yeah, I don't know, like it just feels weird saying it. Like even then, I still think I could have done better things. Like I didn't play perfect all of my like games at Worlds, so still I think even like if you say like you won the World Championships, but like it's the highest honor, obviously in this video game. So I'm super extremely happy about it. But the point is, I still feel like I can improve on that. So I hope this ones that just slow me down, like it happens, like where you maybe think I could have done it better. I just hope that like I don't fix myself while I'm a world champion, so I don't need to fix these things. So yeah, I like what I hope for is this tournament, this result to be more like another stepping stone on my journey, and to be able to like improve even further.
It's so amazing hearing you talk about your progression. Like, 2 years ago at Worlds, you just make it into day two. That's like, the first big day two. And now here, 2 years later, you are sitting here as world champion. I want to take this as an opportunity to talk a little bit about Worlds. I was looking at your run, and I think one of the craziest things is you lost 2 rounds in day one pretty early on. So you were,
Yeah.
2-0, 2-1, 3-1, 3-2, and then you won every game afterwards to obviously win the entire championship. And so, 2 things I want to dive into are first, like, what was the prep process like going into Worlds? You ended up using one of the most popular team compositions, the Arabega team, which I think a lot of people had on their radars as one of the best teams going into Worlds. So what made you decide on that? Kind of how long was the prep process? What did that look like going into Worlds? And then, of course, we can dive into Worlds specifically as well.
Oh yeah, okay. So like the main thing I put in my preparation was like in general, like all the teams, I think I can afford every team that I bring to tournaments. Like I give myself the opportunity to just like you can change a lot of things, like all like the spreads, the even items or something of the team, even that like the night before. But you have to have the structure of the team that you're gonna play locked in by like at least a month before. So
Wow.
what I was saying is that the only thing I want to be sure of, like even a month before, is I want to know which restrictor to bring. So I started testing a lot of restricteds, and like almost all of them had like some kind of like problems I wasn't a fan of, even Miraidon, to be honest. But so like in the end, I didn't find what I thought was the best restricted, like the restricted that makes you say, yeah, this restricted can win worth. But among those, I found Miraidon to be the best restrictor I could play with, even because I already had experience from it from the Bologna special event. So like I said, like I really didn't say to myself like this team can win Worlds, but I said to myself like this team, if I can play it correctly, it can get me further than anything else. So like it didn't, like I went there just thinking this is the best team I can come up with. Um, and then like it just started with all like the preparation, like finding the correct ones. Like I tried a lot Greensnarl over Whimsicott. There were there was a lot of times like I swapped between Chiyu, Ogre on Fire, Entei, just that like I swapped out a lot of fire types. Like the only things like I just kept every time was Miraidon, Iron Hands, and Fergirov. And like all the other slots, like I swapped them around. In the end, like it just felt like the Arubega team was the best team I could play with. In general, like you had way too few protects on the team, so like all the matches felt like if you don't get the right turn, like the matches where the matchup doesn't feel especially good, like you have to get every turn right,
Yeah.
and if you don't, it doesn't happen. So like in the end, I decided to play with Ogerpon. The first day in general, I felt like I wanted Chiyu. Like I went back to my apartment and said, I want Chiyu. Like why didn't I love Chiyu? Because a lot of matchups would have been far easier with it. Like it just felt the fact that um like Ogerpon was just like the harder version. Like you had way less matchups where like you could just spam the stab move, but in general you had a lot more tools to deal with matchups that otherwise felt really um, difficult, such as like the top 32 matchup. So in the end, like I'm very very happy I brought Ogrepon towards.
And then, of course,
And
your top 8 game. That was crazy, man. I remember we were watching it in the venue because it was on stream against the Dondozo. And it just felt super crazy. Of course, the end of that game 3 in particular, where I think he went for Dazzling Gleam instead of Draco Meteor. So, yeah, what were you feeling, especially at the end of that? Because it felt like if he just clicked Draco Meteor twice, if the Draco Meteor hits, he has a pretty good chance at winning.
Yeah.
But it was so tense back and forth. You made some really cool plays as well. And, I actually lost the Chen Yu in Swiss, and I was like, the way he played Dondozo was just like really aggressive and like different from a lot of other players I'd seen use Dondozo. So what was that matchup like? And also just playing on stream throughout this entire experience, like were you nervous throughout it?
Yeah, I was super nervous, and like all like the background of the match was extremely nerve-wracking, I think, because first of all, like you're playing in top 8 at Worlds.
Yeah.
Second of all, you're playing in front of like thousands of people, like live, and there's like tens of thousands of people watching you from any spot of the world. So it's so like that alone is super is nerve-wracking. There were also like some technical difficulties. Like we started game 1, and they forgot to bring us the team sheets. So like they had us go they had us exit the game, like you just say home home exit and get back at it again. We stop again and we have to play. And as I send out my lead, I see that I had this was not my team, because the point was that since they made us exit the game, it didn't save my team.
Oh.
And the previous team that was played on that cartridge was Taramberti's team, which were the same 6, like different sets. Urshifu was dark, but like you don't see it from the from the team preview. So like I was super tense. Like I didn't notice that this is not my team. Like I just noticed once I led the Monza that I saw that Ironans wasn't the correct set. So it just kept adding up, especially because like I saw like from the lead on the fake game, I saw that my Miraidon was faster than his, and I say, well, that's very good. But then, like this, I noticed that it's not my team, so I go back into into team preview thinking, wait, am I really faster than his? Luckily it still was. So like in general it did not change, like it did not change anything, but like it just added up into the pressure. And I think like this really got the best of me, especially in game 2. I think I was super pressured, but like after the turn 1 where I correctly predicted my opponent to not go for the terrestrialized fairy with Miraidon, like the game was won on the spot. I think I just needed to, like, obviously aside from hitting the Dracos, I just needed to not use Irons to KO Dondozo, because like that way I could just KO Dondozo after with my Miraidon and just have whatever was not Iron and like whatever was Irons or Overpawn or something to knock out the Tatsugiri. So like I made a super, like, it was really a rookie mistake. Like Dondozo, like I play against Dondozo since like Series 1. It was years ago, and like it just felt like why did they do that? And like it all like came crashing down. Also, like I made a mistake, like using the like where I terrestrialized Overpawn and I knocked myself out with Woodhammer, like, because the fact was that I incorrectly assumed Tatsugiri would have been super bulky, so I said I'm not gonna one hit KO it with Woodhammer without the Terra. So I have to Terra, but instead it wasn't that bulky. I would have probably KO'd it regardless, and I would not have been knocked out by my own Woodhammer. So like the game 3 was like I really did not know what to do. Like it just felt like well, like you had plenty of chances. The game was yours. Now what? So yeah, it was kind of a blur. Like I really don't know, like how, like all I don't know anymore what were my thoughts behind like every of those plays. I'm just happy I was able to win it, but yeah, I think barring from like some kind of misses from my opponent, I would have lost that game 3.
And then of course, I mean, everyone then you make it through top 4. You're in the finals now. And I think, well, I haven't been in the spot before, but I wonder what it's like. You have the whole night, like tomorrow you're playing like the most important match of your entire life, probably, no
Yeah.
matter how your career will progress. Like even if you, I don't know, pull off the Ray and win again, I think
Yeah,
like the
you can
first
always
one.
you can at most equal it.
Yeah.
There's nothing topping that.
Yeah. So how was that just going into it, and what did you expect just about the finals? Maybe it's my last question, because we've taking a lot of your time.
No problem. Like in general, I'd say I'm a very anxious person. Like I get really anxious playing even like games that should not matter that much. Like even like when I play team tournaments, such as MPA or World Cup, I'm super nervous. So like the World Finals, it just feels, well, yeah, it's you cannot like you cannot you cannot be any more nervous. Like the first thing I did, like in the evening, I just went out with my friends to celebrate like reaching the finals, because
Yes.
I just needed, like, I needed something to take my mind off from the fact, like I'm celebrating making it to finals, but I'm not trying to think I have to play finals, because if I do, I'm probably gonna pass out at the restaurant. So yeah, I went to bed without trying to not think about anything about the finals. And like I just said to myself, I'm waking up early tomorrow and we'll see from there. The following day, like I had to like do the homeworks. Like I had all my friends help me with coming up with the game plan, especially like um one thing I am sure of, like I don't think there's any shame in admitting that, is that at the games being played like straight up after the top 4, I would have lost, because I felt like that particular matchup was one where you had to like know how to approach that.
Yeah.
Like especially in testing, like maybe even the first tower, like I was just getting slapped. Slapped from like everything I was trying. Like my friends were just beating me over and over. Did not help that one of them like was playing with the alt, which was a 2024 Worlds winner, and like they were playing with Utah's team. So like it just felt like an omen. Like yeah, that is the 2024 Worlds winner. But after that, like slowly but surely, like I began like seeing their like the opposing teams wasn't that like that perfect into mine. Like I still had like I had a lot of resources into that. In general, like after everything, I'd say the matchup was at worst 50-50. At best, I had a slight advantage. It just felt in the like playing the first times, like it just felt very very difficult to play into, but and like it still was, because like Utah played amazing, but it wasn't that bad as I initially thought. Like there were like I had to get some turns correctly. I think and like most of all the leads, because like Ogre Pony is super good if my opponent goes into the Iron Valiant mode, but like if my opponent instead goes for with Landorus, Pelipper, something like that, it's a bad situation. Like there were like a lot of things like you didn't want to find yourself into, if like with leading Overpawn into Landers, and but also like not leading Overpawn into Iron Valiant, and I think I made a good game plan, especially the first two games. Like especially in the leads, like I got right that my opponent would lead Landorus in game one, and also like I led Miraidon next to Urshifu, especially because like I wanted my opponent to be baited into attacking with Landorus, because like when you see it, like it's just like I just withdrew the Mon weak to Landorus and attacked it with the with the move Landorus was weak to. But there were some there were like a lot of thoughts behind that, because then again, like my opponent just needed to get the play, like he just needed to withdraw Landorus, send in Among Us, and then like I would take 50% for nothing, damage for nothing. So it was very important not only to know what to bring, is how to bring it, because like you need to bait your opponent into making some specific plays.
Yeah, I think the turn one like definitely is like it looks so
Amazing.
scary, just because like what if they just helping hand sends you Storm? But I think that actually you would be fine if they did that. But you need to. It's hard finding, I think, if you've never practiced this matchup before, that oh, it's fine to switch, and even if they go for that, like okay, Urshifu goes down to Sash, Iron Hands takes a ton of damage, but at least I get rid of the Landorus.
Yeah, it was exactly what I practice. Like I noticed that if I manage, like the key to the matchup is having Miraidon healthy enough. Once you and like potentially not like dropped at -2 special attack.
Yeah.
Once you find Calyrex, because like it either KOs Calyrex or it KOs Among Us. And after that, like you can use like Farigiraf to deal with Calyrex. So like the important thing was having Miraidon healthy and potentially Farigiraf healthy enough after like while removing Landorus. So the important thing was I made like once I withdrew Miraidon, like I saw the animation that I was withdrawing Miraidon. I guess I said, well, that's perfect. I didn't even care that my opponent went for Slash Bomb or Sensor Storm, like because I knew it would have been the best case scenario for me.
Yep.
Then again, like my opponent even terrestrialized and used Slash Bomb, so like it really could not have gotten any better. But in general, I knew very well the turn was very beneficial to me anyways, because I had removed the Landorus while keeping my Miraidon live and healthy.
Wow, yeah, so many insights from you here, and I'm sure that I mean, to become world champion, you really need to think of all the different options, and I'm sure you could talk about just the finals matchup like for ages at this point, just because of how important it was for you at the moment. And I'm sure you went through many lines that we didn't get to see because your opponent, of course, decided to do something else. But once again, just hearing from you about your run, just incredible how far you could take it from just getting started, just watching some videos, getting trashed with Breloom against Restricted back in 2016, and now 8 years later, you're the world champion.
Yeah, it's such an inspirational story, and I realize at this point, I don't want to take up too much more time. We've talked a lot about Luca, the VGC player. We don't know very much, know about Luca, just the person in general. And so, like where are you from? What are you up to? What do you like to do outside of Pokemon? Tell us a little bit more. Just about. We probably should have started with that. We just jumped
Yeah.
right into the Pokemon stuff. That's how badly we want to hear about it. But yeah.
No, I think like I'm pretty like a standard guy in general. I'm from Bergamo, which is a city near Milan in Italy. I'm statistics student. Like after I'm closing this like this meeting, I'm probably going back to writing my final thesis. Like I'm getting the like the first degree of in statistics. After that I want to pursue a master degree. So like I'm still not done with my studies. One of after Pokemon, one of like my main passions, which I think like is pretty popular in Italy, is playing football, following football. I'm a super football fan. Especially like what I wanted to like one of like my dream careers is being able to link my statistics path to like the world of football. Like there are a lot of data analysts and such in the world, and it's a profession I really interested in about. So yeah, like this is kind of like like the career I want to pursue. After like I was playing football in like I'm really amateur, and to be honest, I was pretty bad at it. In the like when I was little. In the end, like I came to a clash with Pokemon because like you play games on Sunday and they're also tournaments on Sunday. So at some point, I had to make a decision when like I just decided I would play Pokemon because both like in general, like I think it was a no-brainer. Even when I started out, I think I was better at Pokemon than I was at soccer or football. Like I, it's football. Um, but in general, like it was at that time like the thing I wanted to do the most, like go to tournaments, play Pokemon. Like to this day, I don't regret the decision. I didn't regret it even once things were going bad. But yeah, being able like the good thing about football is like you can just like next to everyone in the world is able to like follows it, aside from Americans. Yeah, but like everyone likes it, so it's like a common ground where you can get to know many people, like talk about it, which is true also for Pokemon, but like it's much wider for for football. Like even like lots of my friends from Pokemon are also football enthusiasts. So we have multiple group chats where we talk about different things, and yeah. So like those are my main passions. I don't think there's really that much into myself other than that.
I love hearing that though, man. I think that's so incredible. We're just about coming up on time. So, I mean, good luck with the thesis. Congratulations. It sounds like you're almost done. That sounds like such an awesome, cool, dream and career path to pursue as well. So I know Marcus and I are rooting for you. So before we wrap up, just any final words, any thank yous, really any motivating words that you want to give to everyone listening?
Okay, like this is probably gonna like once all like the interviews come out, like they just say like this guy is just repeating the same thing over and over again. But I think I think it's important. Like obviously, who I want to shout out who I want to shout out is my family, because I could have never gotten this far without them. But like even if I hadn't gotten this far, they always were there to support my passion. Even if things don't go well, they are always there. Like they say, and like they don't care how like if you're doing good, if you're doing bad, but they just are there for you, which is the most important part, which is like the same also like for all the group of friends I have. Like all the people in the community, like even some people like you don't interact with as often, like maybe like you talk with at local events, tournaments, that still like they still choose to support you. Like like it's crazy to like you can be able to like to be able to do that. Like there's someone like you just talk to a couple of times where like they're gonna support you, and there are times like you talk with someone and say like, well, this guy's pretty neat, I'm gonna support him as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think those are my main shout outs. After that, I think the most important thing, I think like you can kind of deducing from there, is that once you start playing Pokemon, you start going to events, you start to play online. Always like try to make as many connections as you can, because being able to have friends to share your passion with, discuss about like teams, structures, how to play something, and like in general, being able to push further with your friends, helping each other achieve success is the best thing in the world.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, awesome words coming out from our world champion. I think last question from me, and then maybe we'll let you go. But if people wanted to shake your hand, get a photo, what are some of the next adventures in the life of Luca? Which tournaments do you plan on attending in the new season?
I still haven't decided, because well, in general, I am lucky enough now that I like hopefully they don't change things up, but I should be qualified for the next Worlds. So like there isn't much reason to like play many tournaments, but it was like I didn't play many tournaments to begin with, even the previous years. Especially obviously like once they're not a big commitment, I always like to play. So I'm definitely going to attend as many local events in northern Italy as I can. So like if you're from northern Italy, like you can just see each other there. From for like majors. Now like the good thing is that I'm not really playing for anything, so I for me that I'm very anxious about like a lot of tournaments. I think this can be a good opportunity to just like try and experience, go to newer places. I would like to go to NAIC this year, because I never went to to the USA for a tournament that wasn't Worlds.
Yep.
So like just to be able to like see how different the truly American tournaments are. I would like to try that, even if it's like far down in the season. Other than that, like there are probably like a couple of regionals I want to attend. Maybe I want some like I want to play Reg H, but like obviously I still have like I have to get my degree first. So
Yep.
like there are only a couple of tournaments in Europe left. But yeah, I'll try to like the good thing now is that I can afford even like with the prize to like a little more freedom, where I can just say I want to go to this tournament, I can go. So
Yeah.
like I don't have anything fixed yet, but yeah, when I can, I will try to be to as many events as possible.
And then of course Reg G is coming back, so I'm sure maybe you're excited for that as well. One last ride, one more ride with Miraidon, or well, we will see. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. There are a lot of different teams from Worlds that I find really fun, really funny to play with. So maybe I'll try something out. Maybe I'll just say, well, fuck it, I'm just gonna play with Miraidon again and just cement myself as a one trick. But yeah, we'll see that when time is due.
Amazing, man. Thank you so much for joining us, giving us so much insight. It was so cool to hear about your story. You know, Marcus and I were talking before this, and I was like, oh, I don't think I've actually even gotten to chance to speak to you before, Luca. So it's such an honor. And yeah, appreciate you taking so much time, especially when you're busy finishing up your thesis as well. So congratulations once again. Best of luck. And yeah, can't wait to see you at the next tournament and where your career goes from here.
Thank you very much.
Always great hearing from some of the best in the game. Luca Ceribelli, our world champion. Wow, that was exciting.
I had never spoken to Luca before we did this, and it was just so cool to hear so much insight from him. I think like one of my favorite things, especially as like people that I don't know very well, like win tournaments, is hearing about how different their stories are and hearing about like their path to becoming, you know, the very best. And I was so impressed by a lot of things Luca said, but he has that champion mentality, you know, even though he won Worlds, he's like, you know, I'm not done yet. And he was also like, I won, but I still made a lot of mistakes. So I want to just keep improving and keep learning. And it was funny because we were talking about goal setting before the interview with Luca. And it felt like, you know, he had set these like realistic goals where he was like, oh, I want to like top cut at regionals, top cut in IC, top cut worlds. And a lot of the times, you know, it's like you achieve those goals and then there's actually maybe less pressure on the line because you're like, oh, I kind of came here for what I wanted. So now I'm just going to, you know, play with a little bit less pressure on me. But yeah, just so much good insight from him. And also like he said, he locked in Miraidon, I think a month before Worlds. And so many people like don't even know what they're going to use the week of Worlds. And so like that goes a long way. That's important.
Absolutely. Yeah. Quick side story. So for the Bologna special event, which was happening, I think maybe in June-ish. So it was the last like major tournament in Europe. And I was casting that one. And for these events, we got to invite a player or like choose a player to have an interview before the tournament that then could be played, like if there was like some downtime between games, or just to have like some content from the event to give some context to some of the players. And yeah, we chose Luca as that person. So we had an interview with Luca, and so I got to spend a little bit of time talking to him there as well. And then he ended up finishing second place, and all of us, we were like yes, like good call, like we got the interview with Luca. Now he's like finishing second place, like that's awesome, just because we could like follow along with his journey even from before the tournament. And one thing that he had shared was that how, and he also mentioned it talking to us just now, how he achieved one of, like in the very first big tournament he entered, like he ended up winning it, like the Torino special event in 2017. So he was just getting started and already wins a big event. So I think for a lot of players, this could have been like, oh, I don't know, like maybe this game is easy, or the game is random, or like, no, I've already achieved my goal. Like, why am I even playing, I guess? Or it can also be a little bit of like, oh, like even though I'm a champion, I still like lose so many games. So maybe it doesn't feel so good if you like had a big success, but then like you lose in your locals against someone you've never heard of. Then you're like, this isn't fun. And then he finished second place at that regional in Bologna. So he was like so close once again to win a big event, which he wasn't able to do since his very first tournament. So he shows up, wins his very first tournament in 2017. And then in the years after that, I think he had some decent results, but I don't think he like won a big event. And so he was this season top 8 at EUIC, second place in Bologna, and now for Worlds, like that's the tournament that he ends up winning. It's just like, wow, like that's a crazy backstory, and definitely he definitely chose the right tournament to win.
Totally, yeah. Like all the stars aligned just at the right time. And I think one of the things I am always curious about is also like what VGC people are up to outside of the game. And so I love hearing him at the end talk about his like passion for football we call it soccer. I think football's the right term.
It's football.
I'll give it to you guys. I was also laughing because he was like, oh, like everyone really follows it except for Americans. And I was like,
True.
yeah,
Yep.
it's true. Yeah. Although I think it's getting, bigger in the US. I've been to some MLS games. And
you've been?
Yeah.
What did you see?
It was one of the Los Angeles teams. There's like a big stadium over in LA, and it was really cool. But I think
Galaxy.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's LAFC and LA Galaxy. They might have been fighting against each other actually, which was cool. But it's funny. I think it is still very much like growing a lot in the US, but obviously like the quality of play in the other leagues and countries is so high. And here,
maybe if they had like a couple of like stats guys who can like analyze everything, like maybe that's an opportunity right there.
Totally. It was just so cool hearing like Luca talk a little bit about that, and so I'm if he can achieve his dream of becoming world champion, I have like no doubt he'll be able to achieve.
You can do anything. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's one of the fun things I like a lot about VGC. It's like so many of the highest level people that we've known in this game. It's cool to see how they can apply the skills that you learn from grinding to the very top here to just other things in life as well. And so but it is interesting because I thought about how like Ray Rizzo was like studied like stats and became an actuary around the time that he was winning worlds as well. I think he was just starting college at the time, so I'm always curious, like those with a more quantitative background, if you like math or economics or statistics, like how that lends into VGC play. But yeah, it was so cool hearing from him.
Yeah, maybe I chose the wrong subject, but in psychology, my degree, I had a little bit of stats here and there, so maybe it explains why I'm like okay, but like not amazing.
Well, I think we've been, talking about Worlds for a little bit. Obviously got to hear about Luca as well. There are a lot of different storylines from Worlds that I don't think we really got a chance to cover, but it would take like so long to list all of them. But I just wanted to quickly note like some of my favorite moments from Worlds.
What do you, new idea. Okay, it's a podcast, but it's going to run like, I don't know, weekly, but it will only talk about the 2024 Pokemon World Championships. And that's like the only topic. It's like,
it's crazy because we could still get so much content out of it. Like I was like, we could spend an hour talking about each team from the tournament, but just like thinking, kind of reflecting back on the top teams and top names. I mean, Michael Kelch, man, that I talked about him earlier, and he was like a big draw for the team that I ended up using. It was basically a concept that he had created. I mean, this guy is like he was considered like the best random battler, maybe best overall Pokemon player in the world. He joins VGC last year. And it's funny because I played him round 1 of EUIC. And I think I went up to you, Markus, and I was like, oh, I'm playing this like German guy. Do you know him? And he was like, oh, yeah, he's this new guy. He got top 8 at regionals. And I was like, oh, okay. And I played him and it was like a really, really close set. And I ended up winning. And then he gets second at Worlds. And then now it's unreal. Like, and I think he was known as like a grinder last year, but now he's like, I played like 20 games with my team. I think he tweeted like he maybe had less than 40 games or sets total with this Worlds team. And here he is getting 3rd place. And so, I mean, this man is unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, I have to admit for sure that he's definitely the best German player at the moment. I think maybe there is still a debate for all time, but I'm sure after his like next top 4 or better at Worlds 25, then that debate is also will be over soon. I mean, I played against him in his very first regional, coincidentally, and this was Bochum last year, so I also won against him in top 8, and I'm glad that I got that one in, because then if some historians, if they're looking at the stats, like, I don't know, in a couple, like in 50 years, if there's like some new players doing a podcast and they look back at the very beginnings of like the greatest players, then they will see, oh yeah, Michael Kelch when he started, losing to Markus and to Aaron, like, so yeah, we can always say that, but no, just honestly, like incredible player, just so good, and he's so quick at spotting lines. Like whenever I talked to him because we're both like part of Team Germany, we prepared together also a bit for Worlds. And whenever I like see him watch a game, like he would be like, oh, like that's a mistake. And I'm like, oh, I sorry, like the animations were still playing. Like I'm still thinking about what are they doing. And he's already like so quick and like, oh no, he should have like protect switch and then double into that. And then even if the guy like protected, like it's still a win and so on and so on. And he's just like so good. And yeah, maybe it's the random battles that help out there. But yeah, fantastic player. And I'm sure like he won regionals this year, but I'm sure more wins and more great results will follow for sure.
Yeah, I was just like blown away. And as someone who, used the concept that was very similar to his, and just to see this new player come and absolutely demolish everyone was so impressive. I think some of the other really cool things from Worlds, like we saw Diego use this really hard Trick Room team in this one, with Galay to end up getting top 8. I think one of my other favorite stories from Worlds is just seeing a lot of my favorite team builders from the online era who had so kindly shared so many of their teams and ideas with the world and really asked for nothing in return do super well with really cool concepts. We had Navjeet Joshi, who finished in the top 8 using Reggie Alecki. We had Justin Knox using Dondozo plus Tatsugiri with Weezing. And then we had Shiliang Tang, who had Grass Ogre Pawn. These are all players that I had so much respect for. I thought were some of the best players that really impressed me coming into the scene. And to see all of them get rewarded for top cut was awesome. And then you had some really big names, just finish outside, out of first place. You had Marco Fierro, who we talked about earlier, get top 16. Antonio Sanchez, who won regional over in Europe earlier this year. I think the largest regionals in Europe ever. Oliver Escalin, obviously Wolf Glick, Hirofumi Kimura. Like those are all players that like you would not be surprised to see win Worlds. And so this game is really difficult, but some of the best players continue to be the best. And even though they didn't make it all the way, to make it that far is super, super impressive. But we could spend all day talking about Worlds. So I think we've been talking for long enough at this point.
Yeah.
Why don't we
maybe the 28-24 Worlds podcast is like another side thing, like bonus episodes. But maybe now that we're done talking about what is behind us, and of course, this format will be coming back. So maybe maybe some of you will listen back to this like, oh, I forgot everything about Reg G, and now I have, I don't know, Liverpool regionals coming up or EUIC or whatever, because we will be coming back to this regulation. So it will still be relevant. I'm pretty sure we will see some of these teams again do well at like regionals when they start using this format again in January. But now we will say goodbye for now for Reg G. We're not done yet, I think, with talking here. Sorry if you were already looking to, I don't know, go on with your day, do something else.
Come back if you've left. You can't hear us, so come back.
Please. But we have Reg H on our hands, which is a bit like unique as well. Like we were talking about how sometimes like just with the rule set there are some unique things, and I think Reg H, in a way, it feels like a regional dex, but then we also have like Incineroar and Rillaboom, so yeah, it's a pretty strong regional dex in a way. So I don't know yet. Have you played it a bit, and do you have some first thoughts on the new format?
Yeah, it's funny. I just started playing, and I don't start work full time until January. So I'm like, oh, okay, I have a couple months. Might as well just start making more YouTube videos and playing a bit more Pokemon. It's
start a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we're doing this, And so it's a good time. It's an interesting format. I think, right, early on, people over-index on like strategies that used to be really popular, right? So people like Hard Trick Room, Dondozo Tatsugiri, like it's easy to go back to those. But it is really, I think it's always cool when you just like use a Pokemon that you haven't seen in like a decade, and suddenly it's like out on the field, and you're like, wait, like what? Like I played a game earlier today when I was practicing with this team, and my opponent had Jolteon, Porygon Z, and I was like, okay. I think it was like the Jolteon had Electro Web, and then the Porygon Z went Ground Terra, and then just one shot my Archaludon, and then I brought out Toxicroak, and I was like, oh, if I'm gonna Terra Toxicroak, and then it'll survive, and then it just one shot Toxicroak as well, and I was like, oh no, okay, even after I Terra Toxicroak.
Wow.
And so I don't know. I think it's always fun getting your butt kicked by stuff like this, because you're like, well, I haven't seen these Pokemon in literally so many years, and so Baltimore Regionals is coming up really. It's like we have no break. It's just we come back from Worlds, and boom, we're right back into things. But I think it should be a really fun format for everyone, hopefully, after all of the last year that we had at VGC, maybe year and a half, honestly. And I felt like early Scarlet and Violet VGC was like one of the most special times, and this like reminds me a little bit of it. And also, it's funny, you like mentioned Incineroar and Rillaboom. Like I actually think Incineroar is pretty bad in this format, at least right now, it feels like. And so I'm curious like how things will shake up. But
maybe it's the same as always. Like it starts everyone's calling it a fraud, and then
someone's gonna clip that, and then Instin's gonna like win every regionals. Like, this guy has no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think overall, I'm excited to see how the meta develops because I think like there's a lot of room and creativity for team building.
Yeah.
And I think like the Hisuian Pokemon in particular, I actually think add a lot. Like Hisuian Lilligant, for example, I think with Torkoal just unlocks a new mode that didn't previously exist when we started with Scarlet and Violet VGC. And so I think Baltimore Regionals, I wouldn't be surprised if people have some like really spicy stuff cooked up already. I think with the new format, people are just excited to play and like willing to lean into fun team building. And when there's like not that much of true established meta outside of people just using like maybe older ideas, there's a lot of room for something crazy to break through. So I'm excited to watch it. I don't think I'll be playing in tournaments very much throughout the next few months, but I'll certainly plan on, making a lot of content around it. But what do you think?
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to watch Baltimore Regionals. Really looking forward to just seeing what are people bringing to the table, as you were saying. Because yeah, with the new format and with one that seems so open, like yeah, sure, there is a couple of established teams already at the start of the format, like you mentioned. But I think there is more and more teams that just will be found as we play the game and play this format. And so for me, I'm going to try and play a few events of this format. So I'll have two German regionals. I can't miss those. And I'm also thinking about going to another one. So then that would be like 3 regionals within the next couple of months until the end of the year for me, which is quite a bit. But I think the format could be worth it. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking about right now. And then let's see how many points I will be at, and if it's possible to try and go for the invite. Because we didn't really mention it, but of course next year's structure changing a bit for the invites is going to make it, I think, a little bit more difficult to attain that invite. So yeah, I don't know yet if I'll just like play these tournaments and like focus on having fun, not really worrying about worlds or championship points or anything. So my goal is to like have some fun, play some good Pokemon, maybe learn a thing or two and see my friends. And then, I'll see where that takes me.
Love to hear it. I think it'll be an interesting season for both of us because I think the last few years Worlds has been easier to qualify than historically. Whereas back in the day when we first started, it's like you had to get like top 4 at nationals or like, be top 12, top 16 in the country / region in order to qualify. And then the last few years, it was like you just need to get enough points. And now we're back to like the top X system. I would love to qualify again. It's just, like I don't want to spend a lot of weekends playing locals, for example. So I'm like, maybe this is good motivation to like win a regionals again. It's been so long, but if you win the whole thing, you get the invite to Worlds. And so not sure which will be the first event that I'll be playing in quite yet, but it'll be fun to dive into this format a little bit. I'm sad we don't get it more, honestly. But at the same time, I think I was actually enjoying Reg G, like prepping for Worlds. And I was like, okay, maybe there's still a lot left to be desired there since my run at Worlds wasn't as good, but we'll be covering Reg H a lot with all of you, in the next episode. And I think Markus and I are eager to dive into the meta, see what's doing well online. And then, of course, once Baltimore happens, we'll break down the results of that as well. But I think that's going to be it from us for this very first episode of Trainers Lounge. Of course, you can find us on YouTube, find us on the podcasting platforms. And this is our first time doing it. So if you have any feedback, let us know. Hit us up on Twitter. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment down below. And we're excited to just dive into this with all of you and be able to do this more consistently. And I love talking to Markus. So I think this is awesome. It's a win-win.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think we didn't really talk about it yet, but I think there might be a Twitter account for this as well. So if you follow Aaron and I, then we would probably retweet it. It's the first episode after all. And then I think also, YouTube comment section and or the Twitter account is also ways where you can, I don't know, leave some feedback, ask some questions. Just know that both Aaron and I will read every comment. And it's exciting to get started with something new. And I can't wait to talk to you again, probably next week, because that's going to be the goal, weekly uploads. And then we'll talk about some more Regulation H, and I'm looking forward to whatever is coming next for the Trainers Lounge.
Yes, thank you once again to everyone for joining us. And this is something that we want to make for the community, so we really welcome any feedback that you have. What are things that you want to hear us talk more about, less about? How do you want to see us allocate the time? all that good stuff. This is just something that we want to do to really give back to the community and be able to make something fun, hopefully, for everyone to listen to. So yeah, that's going to be it from Markus and I for this very first episode. We will see you very shortly soon.